A Puppy and Snapdragons. Written by Reppi Sunghangs. Read by Arashi. Linhart was the first to notice. The green-haired man used to walk through the shopping area in search of objects that could be useful for his investigations, sometimes alone, and other times accompanied by his always cheerful boyfriend, which made his journey even more exasperating and a tiring experience than originally could be. And he thought everything that day would go as usual, Casper bringing him useless objects, many yawns, sore feet, little naps on random benches, and nothing interesting to see at the end of the day. However, this time, there was something different that he never thought he would run into in public. Hubert. Stunned, Linhart paused to look at the minister of the imperial household for a moment. "Hubert, what a rare occurrence to see you in these parts of the city, and in the daytime no more or less," he commented, with a half-smile, already expecting the look of annoyance the dark mage did, in fact, cast upon him. "Linhart?" Hubert greeted him quietly, looking back at the boutique. "Are you looking for garments for Her Majesty?" he commented with a hand on his chin. "No, that is impossible. This is a men's clothing store, and you do not wear this colorful and extravagant style, especially made for nobles. So you must be looking for someone else." If the slight blush that appeared on Hubert's ghastly cheeks was any indication, Linhart thought he knew what it was. "I am looking for a silk cravat," he responded with a sigh. "For Ferdinand." You must be pretty desperate for a guide if you admit it so easily. Are you going to help me or laugh at me?" he snapped through clenched teeth, possibly already regretting trusting him. "Okay, calm down. Let us go inside before Casper sees us and decides to follow us. His shouting is okay for the market, but I do not want them kicking us out of a store because of him." "Very well. After you." Both mages entered the store and were received by an old man who quickly attended to them after recognizing the minister. "May I ask why a silk cravat?" Linhart inquired, looking at the fabrics. "I did not know your relationship with Ferdinand was based on expensive gifts." "It is not a gift," he replied immediately, crossing his arms. "His previous cravat was destroyed a few days ago when he stopped an assassin from going after Her Majesty, so it is a reward, or something of the sort." "Sure." He narrowed his eyes. Everyone knew that those two were one step away from marriage. They just had to admit their feelings to the world. "I saved your life once and you did not get me a reward. I let you sleep till noon of the next day." "Yeah, you have a point there," he nodded. Then he took 2 cravats and held them up. "Look, Ferdinand usually wears red, so you can give him a red cravat or a purple one. He will love either color scheme either way." Linhart surprised himself to know something like that, though the red head was also not that hard to please, nor was he shy about his preferences. "Ah, an acceptable assumption." He stared at the cravats for a few seconds, then walked over to the vendor. "I will take this red one, but the longest one you have." "The largest one?" Linhart asked curiously as the man went to the back room for what Hubert was asking for. "Why a longer one? The regular size is enough to keep it around your neck." "I know, but I think a larger cravat might be useful for other things." Hubert smiled in his oh-so-sinister way that made the scholar pale. "You know what? I do not want to know what you and Ferdinand will do with that cravat. Have a nice day." Linhart had every intention of running to the exit when the dark mage spoke again. "I did not know that using a cravat as an improvised self-defense weapon was such a reprehensible thing to do," he commented with confusion, trying to figure out what he had said wrong. "Improvised weapon," he repeated after stopping short. It wasn't what he had in mind. "Ah, yes, there will be times when Ferdinand would not have his spear with him, so the cravat will come in handy as an alternative weapon to immobilize or suffocate the enemy. It is just a precaution," he responded, as if it was the most rational and normal thing to say. Although it was Hubert, so it must be the most rational and normal thing in the world for him to use any object as a weapon. Linhart sighed. "I can't believe I'm going to say this, but do not buy the silk cravat. It will tear quickly. A common one will hold up better and is also cheaper. Ferdinand will not mind the fabric." Hubert seemed positively surprised at the recommendation. "Excellent suggestion. I did not think about the quality of the fabric. In fact, that explains how his previous cravat was so easily damaged. I appreciate it, Linhart." Yes, I really need a nap," he said to himself before leaving the boutique. When Caspar asked him where he was, he just shrugged it off. The next time Linhart saw Ferdinand, a new red cravat was around his neck. He felt chills. Lysithea was the next to notice that Hubert was behaving in a way that did not quite match his personality. As usual, the girl entered the kitchen in search of freshly baked sweets. However, instead of meeting Mercedes and the usual servants, she found Hubert helping Mercedes decorate cookies with rainbow meringue. There was no one else in the kitchen. Lysithea did not blame the cooks or servants for having fled in terror. "Did you lose a bet?" she asked him without even saying hello. Ah, Lysithea." Hubert looked up at her for a moment before continuing with the task. "No, I did not lose a bet," was all that he replied. "Hubert and I baked cookies for Ferdinand," Mercedes said in her usual sweet tone and kind smile. "Cookies for Ferdinand," she repeated in a way that sounded weird. "Why?" While it was true that Ferdinand and Hubert argued all the time, and they rarely shared points of view, Lysithea was at least sure that their relationship had improved a lot over time, so she did not understand why the mage suddenly wanted to poison him with cookies. "Why? Well, I do not think you need a specific reason to bake cookies that are going to be eaten at tea time. Although I must admit that Mercedes deserves all the credit. I am just helping her with finishing touches." "Don't say that, Hubert," the blonde woman giggled. "You helped me knead the dough, plus you got us a new set of cookie molds, which are very adorable, by the way." "Cookie molds?" The younger girl approached the table and got a better look at the cookies, which made her gasp. "Oh, they're shaped like horses. So cute. I didn't know you could get animal-shaped molds." "Oh, it is not possible. Hubert had them commissioned specifically for Ferdinand with a blacksmith. Is that not cute?" Mercedes explained while the minister cleared his throat. "Ferdinand likes horses, so I trust the shape of these cookies will be to his liking," he added with a half-smile, which looked totally sinister. "You can have one if you want. I promise they do not contain any questionable ingredients." "Oh, she muttered, not very convinced, but took a pink horse anyway, since she doubted Mercedes would lend herself into a murder plot. After biting the cookie and realizing its delicious taste, Lysithea then understood everything. Psychological torture. Hubert von Vestra was not the kind of person to reserve a blank space in his busy calendar for something that did not require a certain amount of blood, so Dorothea did not blame herself for stammering when the dark mage asked her to please provide him with a couple of tickets. "Sure, Hubie. I always carry some tickets with me just in case my friends need them." She easily smiled, trying to compose herself. After all, the songstress just wanted her friend to put aside his misanthropy and finally get a date. Dorothea took out 2 tickets from her leather pouch. "Ah, sorry for the misunderstanding. I don't need the tickets for the play you're in, but for this one." From his front pocket, Hubert pulled out a neatly folded pamphlet. Dorothea unfolded it and read, "The Midnight Lady." It was the opera of a tragic love, because in the end the protagonist, who was a spy, decides to murder the love of her life because her line of work was more important to her than common sense. Oh! Dorothea could understand Hubert was the kind of man who would be interested in such a miserable and sad story. But who in the world would be the unfortunate soul who would go to the opera with him? "Yeah, don't worry, Hubie. I'm a friend of the lead actress. You'll have your tickets tomorrow." "By the way, who is going with you?" Maybe he was ordering the tickets for someone else, although Dorothea doubted that they were for Edelgard. "Ferdinand, of course," he answered with a frown, as if it were the only viable option. "He asked me to surprise him on our next day off. As you know, he loves the opera." Yeah, I know, it's just... Oh, forget it. Tell me how it went later." She smiled, but the minister looked at her with a bit of suspicion. But he let it go because he had another council meeting. Dorothea sighed. Yes, it was true that Ferdinand was an opera enthusiast, and it was also true that he and Hubert were on such good terms lately that they regularly had tea and coffee together. One could even say they were friends, not to mention the obvious sheepish look the redhead always gave the dark mage, and apparently now they also did activities together. Dorothea could only pray that Hubert's choice of play was not a jab at Ferdinand. Lawrence was the first to receive a concrete answer. "I am glad you were able to make room for me in your busy schedule, Ferdinand. Or should I call you Prime Minister?" he inquired humorously before bringing his cup of tea to his lips. The redhead laughed. "Oh, come on, Lawrence. You can call me by my name. And of course, I will always have a free slot for my friends, especially the ones I haven't seen in months. How is everything in the Alliance?" "Everything is perfect as can be with a leader like Claude, but I guess I can't complain." He sighed. At least he listens to my wise opinions from time to time, and... Is that Hubert, with a bouquet of flowers? Ferdinand turned in time for his vision to be illuminated by a bouquet of yellow flowers. Hubert! Are these for me? He looked at the spy master with bright eyes and flushed cheeks. Hubert didn't respond verbally, but nodded once the redhead took the flowers with a big smile on his face. They are beautiful. Thank you. He pulled the other minister's hand and placed a kiss on his gloved knuckles. Lawrence watched, mouth wide open, as the minister of the imperial household's usually pale cheeks turned red before he made a strategic retreat, but not before greeting him. Gloucester? Hubert acknowledged his presence as neutrally as possible, given the circumstances. Minister von Vestra? He greeted him back out of sheer cordiality, though his smile felt forced. Ferdinand, why did von Vestra give you a bouquet of snapdragons? The Count demanded to know after Hubert disappeared from their sights. Also, is that a red poppy I see in the middle of the bouquet? Huh? The redhead looked up from his flowers, looking at his friend, and blinked. Ah, he is just jealous, he responded, blushing more, clearly embarrassed by the subject. Hubert von Vestra? Jealous? Lawrence put his hand to his temple, not understanding anything. Jealous of what? And why is he jealous of you? A moon ago, General Randolph confessed his interest in me and asked me to allow him to court me formally. Although I was flattered, I obviously said no. He sighed and shook his head. Sadly, Hubert had the misfortune to witness the moment, and... Did you really say no to that good man? Lawrence exclaimed, stunned. Why not? I mean, it is true that House Burgleys is not as refined as House Eyre, but General Randolph is such an impeccable man who has helped us a lot during the war. Why, he is a great catch. Why turn down such a man? Ferdinand looked around, and then at his friend with concern. Lawrence, my friend, I hope you are not suggesting that I should cheat on my boyfriend. You should know by now that my relationship with Hubert is a serious one. Besides, I am Ferdinand von Eyre, and I would never do such a thing. I am a noble, and I have principles. Your relationship with Hubert? He repeated, thinking that he must have misheard him. It was simply not possible for Hubert von Vestra and Ferdinand von Eyre, who were like oil and water and always argued like cats and dogs, to be in a relationship. Yes, my relationship with Hubert, he confirmed again, still hurt by his suggestion. Hubert felt so threatened by Randolph's words that he proposed to properly woo me with gifts due to the fear he felt that I would change my mind. I repeatedly told him that it was unnecessary, since we had been together for more than 2 years, and 2 years? Lawrence repeated quietly. A year before the war ended. And then you come along and suggest that I should be unfaithful to him. I never thought I would hear something like that from your mouth, Lawrence. Ferdinand admonished him, and lightly pounded the table with his fist in suppressed rage. Hubert is the man I plan to marry, and I am not going to do anything to put our happiness at risk. If you were not my best friend, I would be very offended, and I would not give you the chance to take back your words. Ferdinand. Lawrence lowered his teacup and put it back on its set plate. He swallowed hard and thought about what he would say next. I am sorry. I had no idea that you and Hubert were a couple for so long. And you are right. I would never suggest such a deception of that magnitude. I'm really sorry for the misunderstanding. He rose from his seat and lowered his torso in a bow. Lawrence, you truly did not know? Now the Prime Minister was the one who looked at him in surprise. But Hubert just gave me a bouquet of flowers, and you saw me accept them. Very true. But let us be honest, though. That is not a very flattering flower arrangement, to say the least. He sat back down. I think you know perfectly well that yellow snapdragons mean deception, and red poppies mean death. So I thought that von Vestra was just giving you one of his usual friendly warnings. Well, I think it is romantic of him that he gave me his favorite flowers, because then I can think of him while I have them on my desk. He defended himself in an indignant tone of voice. I have never seen you two kiss or hold hands, except for 2 minutes ago. Let me remind you, Lawrence, that the Prime Minister and the Minister of the Imperial Household do not have the luxury of being unprofessional in public. He snapped with a frown. Ferdinand, you have not made even a single mention of your relationship. I always write about Hubert in my letters. Yes, and you sound like a guy who has a crush and does not know how to deal with it. But you never wrote that you were, in fact, in a relationship with your crush, he said as calmly as he could, not wanting to upset his friend any further. That is why I thought General Randolph could help heal your poor broken heart. However, Now I see that your heart is more alive than ever. Needless to say, I am not the only one who is worried about you, Ferdinand. You know what? Now this all makes sense. The minister placed his hand against his forehead, his eyes down. Lately, everyone has expressed their concerns at my physical and mental well-being, and for some reason they always add, "Be careful with Hubert." I thought they were just saying it to tease me and make me blush. Even Edelgard has laughed off all the warnings, but now I see that is not the case. Lawrence felt very bad at the sight of his sad and defeated friend. He tried to use his mental repertoire of good manners in case he could find something to say to cheer him up. However, the red-headed man soon began to laugh. Oh my goodness! Looks like I have finally won an argument. Ferdinand hugged the bouquet and laughed hysterically for a few more seconds before calming down. Lawrence was more than confused by his reaction. You see, my friend, I told Hubert from the start that we should officially announce our relationship with a ball, or at least get our friends together for tea. However, he looked at me as if I was going mad and told me, "They are smart, Ferdinand. Surely they already know. We are not subtle at all." The redhead quoted him with his best imitation of his boyfriend's serious tone of voice. "But do you know what that means now?" he inquired with a big smile. "That we are all idiots?" "Yes! No, wait, maybe?" he conceded, but soon exclaimed, "It means that Hubert and I can finally have that announcement party." He stood up and raised his fist. "Oh, this is great! I am going to have to make the preparations now. And don't worry, Lawrence. I will make sure the ball takes place at least one day before you have to return to the Alliance." "Oh my, I am looking forward to the ball then, my dear friend," he responded with a chuckle as he watched Ferdinand hurriedly leave. Lawrence was now glad that he no longer had to worry about his friend's love life, because if Ferdinand's illuminated eyes and radiant smile said anything, it was that he was happy with von Vestra, even if he couldn't fully understand how that was possible. Lawrence took another cute horse-shaped cookie and enjoyed it with the rest of his tea.